Hey everyone, my name is Chris, and if you're watching this video, I'm guessing it means you made it to your fantasy playoffs, and congratulations for that. Now, if you're at all familiar with my work dating back to the 8 years I spent at the Worldwide Leader, the 5 years I've been doing HeyHarris football, you're aware that I don't put a ton of stake in analyzing schedules. That is, until we get to this point when we're in a 3-week sprint for the fantasy title. So here's the plan for today's show. I'm going to find you the schedules I like best for these 3 weeks among players where there's a question of whether to start them or maybe even a question of whether to add them. Here we go. The Dolphins aren't a good team. You know it. I know it. But you might recall before your fantasy trade deadline last month on this very channel, my heart wasn't exactly in it, but I did try and pick out some good potential playoff matchups from afar. And the quarterback I picked was Ryan Fitzpatrick. That was a long time ago. I wasn't sure. That was a long-distance pick, but now we're finally here. And let's admit, his schedule looks just as tasty, and it has a chance to help one player you probably already were starting, and one who could be a waiver wire ad. Well, Fitzmagic himself could be a waiver wire ad. He also can turn into Fitzpumpkin at any time. Absolutely no question. But he's about to take up residence at MetLife Stadium for a couple of weeks, facing two defenses who will absolutely give it up to opposing quarterbacks. Those Harris Index numbers you're seeing there are the number of fantasy points on average that a defense has added or subtracted from an opposing quarterback's totals over the past 5 weeks. And those Jet and Giant numbers are definitely statistically significant. The Bengals, I don't know, the number looks about neutral. I don't trust that defense a lot either. So there was already certainly lots of reasons to get Devonta Parker into your lineup. I'm a little skeptical that this great statistical run he's on is representative of what he is as a player. It has a little bit of blood on it from some blowouts where he hadn't done very much damage until very late in games. But Week 13 against the Eagles, Parker was legit excellent. And my point with him is that, he's probably going to be in your lineup in these matchups anyway, but these opponents in particular make it all the more attractive. Should you stack him with Fitzmagic? It would take a lot of stones to have a lot of Dolphins in your playoff lineup. I don't know. I could see it. Even in this good matchup this week against a weak Jets pass defense, I was only able to get Fitzpatrick up to my number 16 quarterback, but it's true. If it hits for him, it might be hitting for Parker, and you could wind up pulling a fantasy playoff upset. And then the guy you might add is Mike Gesicki, the tight end. He had his best game as a pro last week, not just in terms of stats, but also the way it looked. He was flying around out there. Fitz was basically throwing jump balls to both these guys against undersized corners and doing work. And there's no guarantee with Gesicki, but I can see how he winds up with a hot streak to end the year. And then the runner-up for the possibly unexpected passing game you might be able to ride here in the fantasy playoffs would be the Steelers. But of course, the Steelers themselves have limitations, and those limitations are named Duck Hodges, a third-string rookie undrafted quarterback who's taken over that starting job. In the case of Pittsburgh, their passing game doesn't have a good matchup in Week 15. But oh boy, they sure do this week against the Cardinals. This is, in fact, the best matchup available in the NFL right now for quarterbacks and wide receivers. It would be difficult to advise using any of them against the Bills Week 15, but I understand the argument for the other two games. Now, you're not using Hodges even against the Cardinals. Can't do it. He's not proven enough. Sometimes the resistible force meets the movable object, and the movable object throws 5 interceptions. But let's see if Juju Smith-Schuster is able to come back from his knee injury this week. I tend to think not, based on comments he's made. If he's out, James Washington has legit boom-bust appeal. He can go deep, and Hodges showed a willingness last week to let fly. Now, I was only able to get Washington up to number 41 this week in my receiver ranks, but if you told me it should be 31, it's a pretty flat receiver group out there. The hesitation I have is that Deontay Johnson is faster and also can make a play down the field. But if you're looking to play matchups, I could say go for it on Sunday with Washington, and especially There's logic that says, man, as a 1-week solution, go get Vance McDonald. He's available in about half of Yahoo leagues, or maybe he's languishing on your bench. The Cardinals will give it up to tight ends. McDonald belongs in the top 10 ranks at the position in Week 14. It's gift-giving time, but what about a gift for yourself? The gift of an Audible membership. For a limited time, Audible's offering more than half off your first 3 months. Every month, you can choose 1 audiobook and 2 Audible originals. And when you start your new Audible account, they'll give you 1 audiobook for free. And you know what? I have novels on Audible. I wrote them. I read them. If you make one of my books your free audiobook, then send me a screen cap. You'll be a person of the book. You'll be in our Sunday morning live stream. Ask me lineup questions as soon as this Sunday for your fantasy playoff game right before kickoff for free. Visit audible.com/HarrisTube or text HarrisTube to 500-500. Get one of my books and become a person of the book. Audible.com/HarrisTube or text HarrisTube to 500-500. Okay, back at it. Let's talk running games. We're showing you pictures of Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, and you know what that means. I guess play both of them. You know, the Chargers would be my nominee for the team with the easiest run defenses to play against the rest of the season. Once again, the numbers there alongside each opponent indicate the fantasy points that a defense has been adding or subtracting from their opponent's average performance over the past 5 weeks. And this looks like 3 good to great matchups to me. Even the Vikings, they haven't been total pushovers, obviously, but at least they don't look like a pit of despair for opposing running backs. The Jaguars this week, that's a mighty good number. I don't think you need me at this point to tell you to use Melvin Gordon every week. Once again, turns out that the people who just irrationally hate Melly and think he's terrible were once again wrong. As soon as his line started blocking for him, he started looking good again. Monster workloads his past 4 games. The real question might be Eckler, whose workloads have been declining and who's basically needed the one big play, usually via the passing game, to make your week for you. But I have Eckler number 18, even in standard this week, against the bad Jags run defense. I think you use him, and it might be a little dicey when you do need that one big play and he doesn't give it to you, but I'd probably just keep using Austin Eckler as long as I last in the playoffs. And my runner-up for the tastiest schedule for a running back in the next 3 weeks belongs to, I'm holding my nose, Devonta Freeman. That was me holding my nose. I mean, it's a terrible Panthers run defense that he faces in Week 14. Obviously, Freeman's not unowned in very many leagues. Neither is Austin Eckler for that case. There are a lot of running backs that I'm going to recommend in general that you're going to ride for 3 weeks that were completely unavailable as of right now. This is more with Freeman about trying to make tough start-sit decisions based on matchups, and as you'll see, Freeman's schedule in weeks 14 and 16, terrific. Panthers, Jaguars, yes please. The problem comes in week 15 at San Francisco, with the 49ers likely still in a dogfight for playoff positioning, and also for the NFC West Division title. That will be a bench him if you can type situation for any running back, let alone one who's been as disappointing in general as Freeman has this season. But man, this week against that bad Panthers run defense, I got Freeman up to number 16 in my ranks among running backs, and I mean, that makes me feel bad, but it's hard to see a world where you don't try take advantage of that Panthers defense. I've got him ranked this week over Devin Singletary, Chris Carson with Rashad Penny stealing a lot of work, Phillip Lindsay, David Montgomery, all these players you've probably been using ahead of him all year. And it does make me a little bit nervous if I'm a Devonta Freeman owner. It sure does. You know, Freeman and the entire Atlanta offense, they haven't had a good year. And Freeman's only 1 game removed from a multi-week foot injury. But hard not to see a world where he makes chunk gains against Carolina. He's got between 15 and 20 touches written all over him. The floor is a little bit scary just because Atlanta is bad, but the ceiling is pretty dang good. And then as a bonus, let's talk defenses. I wish I could tell you I found one readily available fantasy defense with a locked-in great schedule weeks 14 through 16, all 3 weeks. Unfortunately, I can't find one. The closest thing might be the Eagles, who just got eviscerated by the Dolphins anyway. They get the Giants with Eli Manning on Monday night. They get Washington in week 15, but they're also owned in 3/4 of leagues. So instead, how about this for an idea? A streaming plan. Each of the next 3 weeks where I'm only allowed to choose defenses owned in 1/3 of Yahoo leagues or fewer. There aren't any great solutions week 14, I'll admit it. I'm going to take those Titans who keep blocking kicks to prevent the Raiders from getting back on track on offense, but that's the one where I feel least sure. The Chiefs starting to play more man-to-man, definitely playing better on defense. I don't want them this week against the Patriots, but I like them against the Broncos. I actually don't mind them week 16 against the Bears as well, but week 16 I'd probably prefer Washington. I'm going to guess that Giants offense is a turnover factory. Washington has played better on defense. If you get that far and you're streaming, they might give you a shot. Good luck and go get that first playoff win. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.